Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask SplitSuit a Question. I'm James SplitSuit Sweeney here for thepokerbank.com, and today we're going to answer one of your questions. So today's question is a part 2 from Ron K, and Ron wants me to talk about big and small blind play versus unknowns. So let's talk about that. Alright, so to make sure we're on the same page with an unknown, let's just assume zero information whatsoever. First hand, no information, never played with this person before, don't recognize their username or their face, etc. Don't know this person at all. Total unknown. So there's a couple different elements against blind play against unknowns, right? There's facing steals against them, there's stealing against them, say from the small blind versus the big blind, and that's really kind of about it. That's really all I'm going to assume. And if it's a table where, say, there's a lot of limping to me in the blinds, I want to be playing very, very straightforward. Raising my monster hands, pretty much not doing a tremendous amount of completing from the small blind. I know a lot of players make that mistake. And from the big blind, I'm going to be knocking pretty much most of my range. But I think what you're really looking for here, at least what I would assume, is that you're looking for like blind play versus steals and that sort of stuff. So let's just assume that a total unknown steals against us and we're in the blinds. Now, I love restealing. I resteal a ton, and I always look for situations where I can resteal. However, that's with information. How are they going to react against my resteal? If they do call, what's my plan on flops? If they do 4-bet, what's my shove plan? That sort of thing. But when you're against a total unknown, you don't have that information. You don't have that luxury. So because of that, I'm going to be very selective on the hands that I resteal, and my restealing strategy as a general default against a total unknown is going to be for value. I'm going to be using my big hands, I'm going to be using my strongest of things, but I'm not going to be doing a tremendous amount of junk 3-betting, really, if any. The large majority of the reason is simply I don't know how they're going to react against it. I don't know if they're going to fold a lot. And when I'm restealing with trash hands, I want those folds. I need those folds. And if I'm not sure if I'm going to get them, why am I building a larger pot, putting in a lot of money with this totally weak hand? And if I do get called, I have no idea how I'm going to play it. So that's obviously a huge turnoff when it comes to restealing with those weak hands. So when it comes to calling with hands against steals against a total unknown, I'm usually going to be very selective here as well. I'm usually not going to be calling here with too many hands. I'll call with hands that I think are strong enough, but not quite strong enough to 3-bet and resteal for value. So hands like that could include maybe like a king queen or a king jack suited. Obviously things shift a little bit between 6 max and full ring, but that kind of hand type, or maybe like an ace jack off or an ace 10 suited, those kind of hands. Those hands are usually hands where I'm going to flat against a steal out of position, simply because I don't know if 3-betting it, if I'm doing it for value, if it's more as a semi-bluff. I'm not sure how I'm going to play single pairs post-flop. And again, with information, all of these things change, but without information, I'm reduced down to default actions and default ranges, and because of that, I'm going to be a little selective, and I'm not going to be doing much calling with many other things. I'm not going to be calling with set mine type hands. Again, steals, that's usually going to be a great way to burn money. Same thing with suited connectors and junky type hands. I'm not going to be doing it with like ace 6 offsuit or anything like that. So I'm usually going to be very selective, again, without information. The good thing is that if you're constantly looking for information and paying attention, you can get information very, very quickly. Whether you're using a HUD or whether you're just using your brain, your memory, you can get information quickly. So a player that is an unknown now shouldn't be an unknown in 20 minutes. And if they are, then chances are you're doing something slightly incorrect. So make sure you look into that if that's constantly a problem for you. And then the last little bit that I want to touch on here is just simply how to steal in a small blind versus big blind against a total unknown. And my general default is to steal very liberally here. Now, I'm usually not going to steal with the total trash. I'm not going to steal with like 6-3 off or 7 deuce off or that kind of stuff. Things that really have like no equity going post flop. But if it's even slightly connected, slightly suited, if it has big cards on it, that sort of stuff, then I'm definitely going to be stealing very, very aggressively here. Really just saying, okay, you have a totally random hand. I think you're going to have to fold here a large chunk of the time. And if you're folding 75 plus here, this is a great situation for me to just contend for the pot and try to pick up the blind and a half. And that's something that you definitely want to be doing with or without information, is just looking for those steal situations where you can just pick up that pot, pick up easy money, and just move on to the next hand. So again, I'm not going to be using total trash, but as a general default, I am going to be stealing here at minimum 50% of the time and very, very aggressively. And you don't have to steal huge. I mean, you can steal up to, say, 3.5 big blinds or 4 big blinds, something like that, and that will get the job done a large chunk of the time. But I don't want to use the total trash hands because, again, I don't have post-flop information. I don't know how the heck I'm going to be able to bluff c-bet. I don't know how I'm going to be able to play like those tough middle, third, fourth pairs. So why put myself in a situation where that's going to happen a large chunk of the time? So again, general default here against unknowns is to play tighter, play selective. The small blind versus big blind steal, yeah, it's a situation where I'm going to get aggressive. But as far as like light re-stealing or calling steals a large chunk of the time, I'm going to be very selective and with a very, very specific range that's going to perform very, very well against my opponent's continuing range or just their steal range as a whole. So Ron, thanks for the awesome question. And if you or anyone else has a poker related question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. I'll leave a link for that in the description box. And also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video format. So same as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there and happy grinding.